My whole family, my nickname on my dad's side is OnlyFans. I'm a bitch, I'm a boss, I'm a bitch and a boss, I'm a shine like gloss. What's up, guys? I'm Tori.
And I'm Caitlin, and we are restarting episode 3 because my mic was unplugged.
Hello, welcome to the Bossed Up Bible. We are focusing on manifestation and setting goals and action.
Action. So, to repeat myself, I am here to talk about spirituality, and we wanted to integrate spirituality into this podcast because we feel that spirituality is a big part of our success and how we've been able to set our goals and be focused on those goals. And so to explain manifestation to people that don't know what manifestation is, a lot of times, want to break down manifestation for us?
I can kind of break it down, yeah. Manifestation is the act of focusing where you want your goals to eventually
putting
bring
your
you.
attention where you
so that you're not just working endlessly for some. If you're throwing, basically the way I like to think about it is if you're throwing at a dartboard and you close your eyes and you're throwing, there's a very tiny chance that you'll hit the bullseye. Yeah, you could eventually hit the bullseye maybe, but it is a super, super small chance that with your eyes closed, you're going to hit the bullseye. Manifestation is opening your eyes and saying, I want to hit that dot right there, and throwing pointedly at that dot every time and not just kind of blindly trying to make something happen. So the way I think about manifestation is, and I kind of like smack myself in the head sometimes, is I'll be like, oh, you're manifesting too sloppy. Like there's too much stuff happening in your life that is not stuff that's making you happy. So whatever you think about the most, whatever you put out there the most, whatever you do the most, whatever story you're telling yourself or internal monologue you have going out in your head the most is what you're going to attract. If you're that person, and I'm sure everyone knows those people that are like, oh my God, like I always have the worst luck. Like people always like dump me. I always like my car always breaks down. Like people always pull me over when I'm driving. I don't even like saying those things right now because
you don't want to put that into the world.
I'm giving you an example, universe. That's an
example.
Yeah,
you're like, universe, shut the fuck up.
Whatever you truly believe is going to happen for yourself and you truly put a lot of energy into is what is going to happen. And if you want to test it, there's this, I see the meme all the time, say, oh my God, is that a yellow car? And then suddenly you'll start seeing yellow cars everywhere. There's just random things like that I will think that I've never seen before in my life, and then I'll start realizing they were completely everywhere. And that's completely perspective and how you look at the world and what you're actually allowing.
What you focus on.
Exactly, what you focus on.
Is what you'll see.
So if you go from that, if what you focus on is what you'll see, what you focus on is what you attract.
And that's what you can create.
Exactly.
So that being said, I always think of it like, well, recently I've realized in my life I have been kind of sloppy with a lot of my manifestations because I have been very scatterbrained and I've been trying to create a lot of different things. But also I can tell that a lot of the things I was trying to create were not aligned with my goals, you know,
which is why manifestation's important.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times like things fall apart that are just not meant to happen. And that's why some people don't believe in manifestations because they're like, well, I was trying to make $1 million in the last month and I didn't. And you're like, well, that's 1, not realistic. 2, you weren't putting in the work. And 3, also like, when you're trying to manifest, you have to like release the idea of like how you're going to get there. You kind of have to like put in you have to have a goal, set your attention to that goal, but then also release the work that has to come in between you and that goal and really kind of ride that journey. But you have to keep working toward that goal. So like you program your sim character to go to the kitchen. When you program your sim character to go to the kitchen, it doesn't like walk in a circle. It doesn't like get distracted, go to the bathroom, whatever. It just focuses straight on its goal. So when you have too many goals or you're shooting your dart in like too many directions, obviously you're never going to make it toward
any of them.
Literally not a single one. And that's why people end up discrediting manifestation and completely because they're like, damn, why would I believe in something so fucking stupid?
Well, also I feel like a lot of times people don't really observe like everything happens for a reason, and I don't care who you are, and I don't care what you believe and what God you pray to. Everything happens for a reason. You will look at any religion, and even if it's something that came from God and it's negative, it still needed to happen for the greater good or for your greatest good. So a lot of times when we're manifesting, we set this goal and then things start to happen in our lives that we're like, oh, I just set the goal that I have the freedom to choose whatever career that I want to choose and make money at it. And then suddenly your boyfriend breaks up with you. And you're like, what the hell? Like, now I'm so sad.
Yeah.
And all I did was manifest, like, I just wanted to have the freedom to do whatever job that
And you're like,
I
there's
wanted
your
to do, and
freedom,
it makes money.
bitch.
No, not even. And then a week later or a month later, or sometimes even a year later, you don't even know, you get a job opportunity that's across the country and you have to move. And you know, if you would have been in that relationship, you'd be married and you guys would probably have an apartment, but
And you wouldn't be able to
you wouldn't be able to do the job that makes your heart happy.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
So it's the whole, like, when one door closes, a window opens, another door opens. It's not so much that another door opens, it's that the door that closed was not one you were supposed to walk through, and the universe realized that you were about to walk through it and fuck up the entire plan. And you didn't even realize you were fucking up the plan because that was the door that you thought you were supposed to walk through. That's just literally the way it goes. Like, I know for me to get to this goal, I have to do this. And then the universe is like, guess again.
No, so that's
Try again.
crazy. So this week there was a full moon, and I'm extremely empathic. So when there's a full moon, I'm going through
On
it.
70.
Like, yeah, I was like, I am not feeling okay. I'm getting abducted by my Uber driver, and I'm dropping people right and left. But anyways, in the past week, I have had probably at least 3 or 4 doors closed for me. And I've never felt more aligned. And
Yeah.
it's crazy is because the people that I've released and the goals that I thought were things that I was working toward, I was like, I never felt that.
Yeah.
I literally, like, I don't align with that. I don't give a fuck about that. And I like the fact that I put time and energy into that and those people. Sometimes you're like, damn, like, interesting, you know?
Also, I've fallen into it a few times where it's like, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you should be doing it.
That's what
And doesn't mean that, like, it's going to make you happy.
that recently.
And a lot of times I've been good at things and I've done them for far too long just because I'm good at them and I'm scared to try something that I don't know if I'm good at yet, that I could potentially not be good at and fail. But I had to get to, like, the point where, failure is not failure. Failure is you either getting redirection onto your path or it's there for you to learn a lesson. So I would rather fail every day trying to get to my ultimate happiness than be
successful at something that you don't
all the time. It's something that
you don't give a fuck about.
Don't care about.
Well, like, I think that's the thing is that's why we say that, like, your network is your net worth, or the people that you surround yourself with are the people that, you know, are really going to impact you, is because I realized before I entered, like, the social media OnlyFans space, I was surrounding myself with people that were genuinely miserable about what they were doing.
Yeah,
They
it's crazy
hated their
how
job.
people do
They were
that.
all, like, just, like, you know, going down the path. Like, so, like, I went to UC Santa Barbara, and so everyone was working in tech, like, out of college, and it was kind of expected that I would work in tech, or I would work in, like, and I was working in startups, so I technically, like, I guess I technically do have some tech things going on, you know? And it was funny because I realized that their brains were programmed to kind of just do what everyone wanted them to do, and they wanted to find success in these places that they weren't happy, and that that discontent and disconnect that these people were feeling was also getting to me. And also then their unhappiness was rubbing off on me, like, why are you pursuing your dreams when you could just be getting a 6-figure salary for fucking answering your emails?
Well, that's what it's like. You really have to define what happiness and what success is for yourself, and not what anyone else thinks it is, because at the end of the day, you have to live with you, and you have to wake up to you every morning, and you came into this world alone, and you're leaving it alone.
Yeah,
and
literally.
You have the time that you're here to do shit that makes you happy and makes you feel accomplished, and it's no one else's job or fucking audacity to tell you what that is. Because I'm sorry, like, to me, a midlife crisis means you spent your entire life doing exactly what your parents told you to do, and then they died and you don't realize what you spent the whole first part of your life doing. And you want to reset everything and go back to when you were fucking 18 and you could have chosen to go to school for history or journalism instead of being a lawyer. But now you're a multi-million-dollar lawyer, and your parents are so proud of you, but now they're not here, and you're miserable, and you're sleeping with your secretary.
Yeah, well, actually, though, like, that is such a interesting way to put it, is because I think in the last year I've had to come to terms with the fact that the things that I do genuinely make me happy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, like, I felt so much guilt and shame having to explain to my family that, like, this is the path I chose and I like it.
And I like it.
And I like to do it. And I'm good at it, and I'm sorry that you don't necessarily like it or you don't understand it. But if, like, you want your kid to be happy, and, like, I've dealt with a lot of depression. Like, I'm sorry, like, this is what makes me happy.
Do a whole episode on depression,
Yeah.
and anxiety, and mental illness. We'll save that for a different time.
But-
Trauma and PTSD.
But yeah, so, like, I dealt with a lot of that. So it's like, if you want to, like, lose me for real, like, you could have me here but have me not be present, or you could have me here and be present and accept me. Please just take that.
Well, that's where I had to
know?
get to with my family, because I'm a very, like, I don't give a fuck type person. Like, if it's who I am and if it's what makes me happy and you're not on board, then genuinely fuck you for not supporting, like,
I agree.
my genuine self and my happiness. So I had to have a very real conversation with, like, both my parents about my grandparents, because
Oh
I
my
smoke
God,
a lot of weed.
My grandparents
I do
are blocked.
shrooms. Like,
Just so everyone knows that.
my grandparents
Like-
follow me on social media. My whole family, my nickname on my dad's side is OnlyFans. Like, it's the full spectrum acceptance.
My grandma texts me about how I'm a whore and not accepted, and why do I need that much money and all this stuff. As I come from a family of doctors, like, I grew up wanting, like, people telling me that I
with a lot
needed
of
to
money.
have money.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, even with the amount of money I make, my parents still say that's not enough money for you to support yourself. Like, and it's like, I make
You're like, what
more
am I
money
supposed to be
than
making?
most people my age.
Literally.
And I'm like, and that's not enough money. And I was like, well, you realize that you breeded this character.
Yeah.
You made me.
This, like, insatiable,
Yeah, like, you know,
no
like-
number is enough character.
Yeah, I was like, you created a monster that wants money. And I was like, so, like, if that's what, like, and I mean, going back to manifestation, that's what they put out in the world, is that they wanted a kid to rack in a certain amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay,
They
if
got
my,
a little sloppy with the how, though.
I was
didn't
like, yeah, literally, though, they released the house.
Literally, they released
And I was
the
like,
house.
you asked for
You
this.
asked for me.
Yeah, you asked for this.
Manifested me.
And it's crazy because my mom still to this day, like, you could tell she has a lot of fear around money, because she now is, like, open about it. She's like, well, if something happens to your dad, like, we are fucked. And I was like, you realize your kid is out to be probably a multimillionaire before probably 27. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't really know. Like, and I was like, and your other daughter's in med school, so, like,
You're kind of fine.
you're fine. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, you're okay. I'm like, also, my dad is, like, 50 something. He's okay.
Where's he going?
You know? Like, I'm like, I think you're good. But, and my family saves money, like, really well, so I doubt that is the issue. But it's crazy, is because my family
Well, it's a mindset.
they
Where you
act
come
in
from less, yeah.
scarcity. And it's crazy because also, like I said, they equate the amount of time you put into work as what your outcome is in life. And my dad spent all of my life working, you know? So it's crazy to me when I try to explain to my parents, especially things like passive income, where I'm like, hey, listen, Dad, if you put $25,000 into this, you would be
A millionaire.
this
without
much
doing
richer
anything.
without doing fucking shit, and I can tell you where to put it. And he's like, well, that's risky. And I'm like,
No.
but you have that money. You know what I mean? So I'm
Money
like,
is literally just sitting in
a bank account, you know?
Anything depreciating.
yeah, so it's crazy, is because I'm sure we'll talk about this more in, like, further episodes, but, like, honestly, like, where you come from a lot of times does kind of set the standard for what you come out like. How
Yeah, you have that versus then my parents I grew up with parents that are entrepreneurs. So no dream was too big and no hardship was too hard to make you give up your dream. And my parents always lived like, my mom is very good at saving and my dad is very good at making sure that you still have fun type thing. Like,
wow, I love
okay,
that.
maybe we're not all going out to dinner tonight, but we're all going to go out and we're all going to, like, make each other a food item and we're going to rent a $5 movie. Like, even if like we don't have money right now type thing. Like my parents have always been glass half full. They've always been the way you act is what you attract. It's always been manifestation in my house, and that's because my dad's Christian, my mom's Jewish. They grew up in very opposing religions. They don't agree on who Jesus is. Like, it's very oppositional. Like, my great-grandfather on my mom's side sat Shiva when I was born, meaning that he genuinely was sitting Shiva saying that my mom and I had died and mourning us because my mother procreated with a non-Jewish man. So
that's crazy.
That literally made it in my house like no religion is a thing, but we don't want our kids to be atheists, so we're going to celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah and celebrate any type of religion and anyone that believes in anything, because my parents were like, we just don't want you to not believe in something.
Yeah.
Like, that's so sad to me personally, to just think that like your body's here and then you die and that's it. Like, that's...
Yeah, so it's crazy. It's like, I mean, I guess if we're going to talk about organized religion, I had such a weird relationship with it because growing up, I grew up very Catholic. I went to church every weekend. I went to Catholic school for high school. Then I ended up switching back to a public school. But I remember when I went to confession when I was younger, like, it's funny because I think I might have blocked this out as trauma. And my family remembers this, that I got yelled at by a priest over my sins being too bad. And I'm like, so since day one, I've been branded as a bad bitch.
Literally.
You know, I was like a fucking like 8-year-old bad bitch. And I was like...
I was in trouble in school all the time because my parents like super believed in if we asked a question, they wanted to give us the truthful answer because they didn't want us looking anywhere else for information. So I had asked my mom, like, where do babies actually come from? Like, enough of this stork bullshit. Like, I don't understand this. Like, make it make sense. Like, how are humans being mass created on this planet? Like, that birds are dropping them off. That does not make sense. Like, so my mom like genuinely broke it down and explained it to me. So what did I do? I go to school the next day. This is like kindergarten, and someone
you're
says,
like, so they insert the...
No, not even. Like, someone was like, oh, like my bathroom part or something like that. I was like, that's not a bathroom part. That's your vagina. Or like, and babies come out of that. Like, just informing the whole world.
Your bathroom part.
Literally. Like, and my parents had to have a full
fuck
conversation
up,
with me. They're like, listen, the world is not
ready for that.
And just because you are, and just because we're an open household doesn't mean that everyone's kids and everyone's parents not even want to know that, but that everyone's parents are ready for their kids to
know
be
that,
informed like that. So I
that's
very
not
much
your
grew
path.
up like...
No wonder you're on OnlyFans.
No
bro.
wonder I'm like, that's not a bathroom part. That's your vagina.
Yeah,
bitch.
you're like, bitch, that's your pussy. Yeah.
Literally.
Actually, it's a WAP.
Shut the fuck.
But then,
It's a WAP.
but I've always been the fucking person.
Yeah, the
person that has like pushed boundaries and like forced people not to like kind of conform, but to just do what they want to do. Because I feel like no one does that. Everyone does the shit that they think people want them to do, or the thing that they think they even want themselves to do. I'm like, listen, just literally go through a day and be like, oh, these two options. Which would I be happier to drink right now?
So that's actually crazy. Is that
it's that simple, because that's how you should be going about your entire life. Like, which is going to make me happier? Oh, these 15 majors, not like, oh, all my parents were lawyers, or everyone was a doctor, or everyone went to even college. Like,
yeah, dude.
I did one semester of college because I knew it was going to make other people happy. And I went from being magna cum laude in high school to being on academic probation. Because I did not want to go to fucking college, because every career... Even my backup plans, even like CD backup plans, had nothing to do with college and nothing to do with a degree, and it would not further me any further in that career to have a college degree. So what am I wasting my time for 4 years? I'm now 26, and the amount of knowledge that I've acquired in those years that I would have been rah, let's get drunk and let me try to make it to my classes. I never went to class. World. I spent like actually being in the real work world as someone that was too young to be in it, and learning things that are going to get taught in college like 5-10 years from now when someone actually writes a book about it. Like, when I went to school for marketing, the shit that they were teaching me, I was like,
Bro, it makes me laugh.
I'm paying y'all for this?
No, it makes me laugh.
It's a YouTube class. Like, what?
It's so funny. It's because for me, like, my background is, like, I went to college and I graduated from UCSB, like, sociology. But I spent my junior and senior year, like, self-educating myself because I was fucking over it. I was like, I want to, like, travel. I want to work for my computer and I'm going to fucking figure it out. And also, like, I didn't want an internship. I didn't want a job. Also, like, my sister was going to med school and my dad's a doctor. My grandparents are doctors. My sister was getting hooked up. I knew that I had no connections. I had to figure it out myself, and I was like, I don't want a job, I don't want an internship, so I'm gonna have to be smarter than everyone else here.
Literally.
And so basically, like, and it was crazy because when I would go to class, I would get kicked out of my classes for being too smart. And then it'd be weird because I was like, okay, well, that was dumb. I was like, well, that was weird. Okay, so I'm not going to those anymore. And then I spent like my whole junior and senior year in the library, like reading books, like on how to like build businesses. I learned pretty much everything, like social media, e-commerce, digital marketing. I learned like how to build websites. I learned all this stuff, and it was like I was just literally like shooting in the dark, like any skill I could learn that could make you money on the internet. And everyone was like, this is so stupid, like that's not a real career, like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I was kind of like, well, you know what, like,
well, no one asked you to learn it. No one asked you to do it.
And I was like, well, also it's like, it was crazy is because, you know, people say you put in time in like what you do, and I'm like, so like, okay, word, my sister's spending 4 years in med school and I spent these 2 years while everyone was out partying. It's 11:11, okay, but I was like, and I spent those times in the library while everyone was partying. And it's crazy because now people look at me like, how are you so fucking successful? And I'm like, bro, I put in the time and effort. Like, I was like, I know, like, I'm like, it looks like my life is easy at 24, but I put in the time, I swear. And it's crazy too is because actually now I like the book that I'm about to start reading is about literally pursuing happiness and not pursuing like what people want you to pursue. And so it's funny is because, like I said, my sister's a year older than me. She's 25 and she's just getting to the point where she's allowed to pick what she wants to actually work in as a doctor. And she was telling me that she was like, well, I went to a whole talk on pursuing happiness, which was about this book. And she was like, it's so crazy to me. She's like, that talk reminded me of you because that's all you've ever done is pursued what made you happy. And she was like, and it's crazy because I've never had that decision. She's like, this is the first time in my life I've ever had to make a decision. She's like, I was going to college to be a doctor. I had to choose between UCLA and University of Miami. She's like, oh, two amazing schools. You pick one. You end up there. Oh, you apply to med school. You literally get into one. You don't get a choice. You go there. Then all of a sudden she's there for 4 years. Then she's like, okay, wait. She finally she's 25 years old. She's never made a choice in her life.
Literally.
And she's like, I don't even know what makes me happy.
Literally.
Because I've never had to pick what made me happy. And that's so crazy to me is because every day I'm picking everything. I'm like matcha or an Adderall. I'm like, what's gonna make me happy today?
Literally.
Like, and it's so crazy is that she's like, wow, I'm 25 years old. I have never had to make a decision on something that reflects literally what I have to deal with my whole life. And I ask her, I'm like, are you upset that like dad made you be a doctor? And she's like, I was. She's like, I was so upset that I never had a decision in my life. She's like, now I love it. She's like, I fell into it for a reason, but.
Well, then it's like, does she love it or is it like.
Or is it just a program?
Are you conditioned at that point?
You know, so you wonder that, but I think also, like, I mean, who knows, you know, and I feel like we'll never know because, you know, she'll probably never have
nurture.
Yeah, she'll never have a choice between,
well, we'll see if she has a whole midlife crisis and becomes a yoga teacher in Costa Rica.
That's true. That's what my healer, he was
that's the whole eat, pray, love thing. Like,
no, it's
you never do what makes you happy. You mask all this shit. You realize, oh, none of these physical things make me happy, and the happiness has to come from inside. Well, I hate everything that I do, so that's not gonna happen. I guess I gotta change my whole life.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy is because I don't know, I guess to get like spiritual or deep or something, if anyone really wants to like learn about themselves, there's this book that I have. It's called The Gene Keys, and basically it's like your birth chart, but it's very in depth and it gives you like different characteristics of yourself. And one of mine is like my life mission on earth is kind of to accept that I don't have one path, that my path is to is to change.
Yeah.
So like I'm going to have a career for probably 5 years and then decide I hate it and then choose again. And I think that like
That's human nature though. Like you're not supposed to be the same person from 1 to 100. That's crazy.
that is crazy.
That's fucking insane. So like at the end of the day, all you really have is what makes you happy, and that's also gonna change.
And that's why I think that recently I've like developed this idea of like releasing the idea of like having these expectations of what my life is supposed to look like, or who I'm supposed to be with, or how like I'm supposed to surround myself like with what types of people, because as my interests change,
That's
the
gonna
people
change.
around me change. And like I will say that like one of my friendships that I thought was gonna be around forever, like this week I literally was like, yeah, honestly I don't like you anymore. And I was like, and I will stand by that. Like I don't know if I care anymore, and I'm like, maybe it's just best that we just, you know, part ways and like live our best lives, and like that's cool, like I'm happy for you,
It's toxic.
you know. And I was like, and it was so crazy to me like to like feel that, where I was like, yeah, I actually don't need you anymore, you know. And then also when you, it's weird is because when you live in that state, when people kind of like clench onto you like they need you, it feels even weirder because you're like,
Well, yeah,
you should
because
just let
at the
go,
end of the day,
you know.
any type of dependency like that it's like more heavy on one side than it is on the other isn't healthy, because usually it's someone that's hanging on to you for some type
For
of
some
strange
benefit.
reason.
Yeah.
And it's like the way that you're usually affecting them or hurting them or like fucking up their life is something that you aren't feeling that too, and you're not understanding like why you just being you is affecting them so negatively. And that's what I'm like, why do you still want to be in my life? Because I feel like I'm just living and you're having a really hard time with that.
So I
don't feel like we should be living
it was funny
in the same
too,
sphere
because
right now.
that argument was very much like, you're gonna be miserable without me and I'm gonna be okay. And I was like, I've never heard someone say that so many times to me, where I'm like, I'm okay, bro. Like, I'll be fine.
No,
I
I never get that. Like, most of my breakups have been like, did you ever really care? And I'm like, well, yeah, I care about things that matter.
So that was kind of, and like that was honestly the argument, where it was very much like, well, you don't care that much about me. And I was like, you're right. You know? In the nicest way possible. I was like, I don't care as much as you want me to, and like for maybe the best of us, like. And then the conversation was very much like, oh well, like I've been your loyal best friend for years, so like
to me, you don't do anything for me
That's
you're gonna claim later as like why I should be beholden to you for something. Don't do any favors for me. Don't cover me one time to like say, oh well, that time that I brought you to blah blah. No, if you did something to be nice, do something to be nice, and it's not for a reward, it's not for praise, it's not for a goddamn fucking parade. Like, if you want to be a good genuine person, the only way to be a good, true, genuine, altruistic person is to do something without any praise or reward for it back. That's like giving someone a birthday gift to see how they react and like give you like, oh my God, thank you so much for that. You're amazing. Like, no, I gave you a gift. You could do whatever the fuck you want with the gift. You could throw it out. You could re-gift it. My thing was, it made me feel good to give you a gift. That is yours now. Like,
that being said, do what makes you feel good. I feel like that's not like emphasized enough in our society, is that like if something makes you feel like shit, like just don't do it.
Literally don't do it.
I remember like seeing that quote like years ago and being like, haha, like whatever, like, and now I'm like, I really yeah, like, that's so stupid. But I'm like, no, like, but that's so fucking real. Like, if something makes you feel shitty, like, why even pursue it? Like, and it, like, honestly, like, that's why it's like crazy. Like, I mean, now I will say that like I just finished like a really intensive healing program, and now when I deal with people that are like not healed, I just don't know what to do.
Or just not
I'm like,
self-aware.
I'm like, you're talking to yourself, bro. Like, I don't even know. Like, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that you feel that way about me. But
I'm sorry,
like,
you're projecting your own traumas onto me in this.
I'm like, that sounds like
that
a
has
you
nothing
problem.
to do with it. But all I can do is handle this with kid gloves, because like I've healed from my trauma, so I'm gonna try to help you kind of see.
And then it's crazy
this is your
too,
trauma.
is like when other people try to act like I'm the one that's like in the wrong, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not right all the time.
Well, that's what I've done. Like,
you know,
you can only meet people as deeply as they've
met
themselves. So
you know?
to me, if I realize that you're hella shallow, and it's not shallow like vapid, I'm not talking about like, oh, like what hair, like, what, am I dyeing my hair? I'm talking about, like, you literally have done no shadow work. And if you don't know what shadow work is, I'm talking about you. That's specifically who I'm talking about. If you haven't taken the time to genuinely, like, look your terrible traits that you hate about yourself in the face and understand where they came from, whether they're to protect you or to do something in your life, you can never have the type of, like, I don't know, awareness in yourself to know whether you're reacting to something based on the actual situation or you're reacting to it based on trauma that you have from when you're a little kid. If every time someone raises their voice to you, you ridiculously lose your mind, it may stem from something that came from your childhood of when you were verbally abused that you set out or something. But, like, a lot of people don't want to address their trauma and they don't want to do shadow work and they don't want to think about those bad things because they feel like they're reliving it. Good. Relive it. You got to feel to heal. Feel the pain.
Yeah,
because
dude.
you're just going to keep, like, it's literally the Band-Aid theory. If you rip it off, you get over it and you're fine. But if you keep peeling it up and then you put it back down and then you peel it up and then you stick it back down, like, that shit is just going to stay unhealed.
Yeah, no. So the one thing that I had to work on a lot in the past few months with, like, my healer was basically, like, I mean, I have a tendency to say things like, I don't care, you know, but where does that come from?
I've had to stop saying I'm fine when I'm not fine.
So
and really being like, no, I'm not.
So
I'm not fine.
So that was the thing is, like, even yesterday I was, like, with my healer and he was like, Caitlin, you have a tendency to say I don't care a lot, but the reason you don't care is because you used to care so much that you every time you
realize
cared,
it was painful.
You were put down. So now you actually are so numb to caring because you were so disappointed when you cared, you know? So it's very hard for you to reach the point of care because when you cared,
it got fucked up. And I had two things that severely broke me of, like, that numb state of not caring. Because I went from very, like, I deeply care to, like, wow, no one else is on this level. I guess then I'll pull back and, like, I won't care. And, like, if you want to see who...
Yeah, if you want to see who can care,
bitch. If you
want
to see who can care less, the best.
Try me, motherfucker.
Sign me the fuck up because I'll win. But
I'm like, I'm good at winning things.
There were
That's all
two things that literally, like, knocked me in the head. And one was how old was I? I was, like, I think 23, and I did shrooms for the first time.
Oh, no.
And I cried at a waterfall for 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. And this was a microdose. And I was just like, is this what it's like to, like, feel emotions? I remember having that actual, like, thoughts in myself.
Okay, well,
like,
that's the thing is I've done a lot
like,
of...
I'm actually, like, emotionally...
I've done a lot of
I'm
shrooms in the past
emotions
year.
right now.
Bro, I've done a lot of shrooms in the last year, and I literally, like, it was the first time I actually felt emotion. And I remember the first
it's
time...
It's so creepy.
So the second time I did shrooms, I remember I did a microdose, and I remember it was one of my, like, friends, and he basically was, like, asking me a lot of, like, very personal questions. And I remember...
You freaked the fuck out.
I was so closed off that I was very, like, I never want to do shrooms again. Like, why is this kid asking me what I want to do with my family? Like, when I want to have kids and, like, when I want to be married, what I want to do with my future. I was like, ew. Like, I'm like, no. Like, I'm like, if that's what people do on shrooms, like, fuck no. Like, and I remember, and I realized now it was because I was so closed off that I could not even, like, conceptualize those comments.
Well, what's crazy is the first time I did shrooms was 2019 in August, and then during COVID I went into, like, a heavy shroom phase because I was trying to. I was really trying to have an ego death. But, like, I was really determined to not just be smoking weed and to, like, actually have an ego death. I still haven't had an ego death. I want to.
Oh, I have.
But actually, I met my boyfriend on, like, the second time he had ever been on shrooms, and he literally came running up to me. He's like, "I'm never usually like this, but I'm on shrooms." And that
you guys
was
on drugs is the
second
funniest
time
thing I've ever seen in my life.
In my life, that I was like, "Oh, is this me feeling emotion?" And it's again another point in my life that I was so fucking jaded and just, like, so robotically working on stuff in my life and, like, just so kind of like, oh, I guess, like, level find me when it finds me type thing. Like, I was very over searching for it because searching for it had never gone well at all. So when I met him and he was on shrooms, I was like, oh, wow, this is, like, you in your natural state. Like, I could really know who you are right now completely. And then like we take shrooms together, not all the time.
I was
gonna
like,
say-
yo, I take shrooms
we
with you guys
take
all the
shrooms
time,
together
bro.
all the time, like, no, like, and it's because I genuinely believe if it comes from the ground, like it's not a drug. It is meant to be herbs. It is meant to heal you.
That is why Tori's always stoned. So that is.
I'm high because it's for you guys. The way that I would handle situations without that extra calming.
It'd be like an East Coast vibe. We'd
Well,
be
no,
like
it's
on
also I have
the-
ADD, and weed kind of just like levels me out and makes me be able to focus and like be in the moment and not constantly be like, if you were listening to my head.
I've given
on
Tori
a
an
normal
Adderall
day.
before, and it's.
You know that I have ADD because when I take Adderall, I actually focus and I don't crack out. Like I actually am like, oh, this is normalcy. This is not like my mind racing a million miles a minute on 14 different topics that don't make any sense together. Like, oh, my thoughts have been aligned. But the shitty thing with me and Adderall is like if I take Adderall, it has to be to actually do like administrative stuff. Like I have to be like typing something or I have to be like organizing things because I can't be creative on it. I can't write music. I can't like mood board shoots. Like, because part of the way that my brain works and why it's so creative is I jump to different things so quickly and
Well,
like
that's why people with
scattered.
ADHD are very creative. Is because I realize that too. Is where I'm like.
and my problem solving's
when-
that way too. It's very ADD.
So well, like that's
figure it
why.
out. Figure it
Well,
out.
that's why it's funny is when you're like, did you take an Adderall to write these scripts? And I was like, no. Like I actually didn't. If I were to write these scripts on Adderall, they would be a lot dumber. Like, and it's crazy because like I used to take a lot of Adderall and like, but it's more to like get a lot of things done, not to like, and it's like also then to kind of dumb down the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I am very creative where I do jump from place to place to place to place to place. So I'm like,
You have to
okay.
focus.
So like, yeah. So I'm like, I need to focus. And like, and the thing is also like, if people that talk to me are always like, damn, like you actually are really smart. And I'm like, yeah, but a lot of times like exerting the energy in the places that need to be exerted, I can't do it.
But it's also
You
like,
know, like
the process of me trying to explain what's happening in my head for you to understand like why I'm making these decisions is too much. Like
too much.
how I got here is too much and I don't even fully understand it. So for me to take 20 minutes to explain to you something that I don't even understand about myself is just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I get like penalized for like, oh, you didn't explain that well enough, or like you didn't like tell me enough about how I could get to that too, or like you didn't explain how you reached from point A to point F.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
right.
to be completely honest,
I have no fucking idea.
I just literally trial and error it. I poke at it until I hit the right button. And as you start doing that at the same problems, you start to get better at like not poking all around. But literally everything that I do is trial and error because everything that I do has to deal with a different set of circumstances, a different set of people, different set of energy, and just it's a different situation regardless of how similar it is to something that I've experienced already. So I never approach a different issue with like the same solution because that's the solution for a different issue.
I think that's a big thing that people need to notice about entrepreneurship though is like when you're approaching a different project, a lot of times like you can have the same approach, but it's not always going to be the same because when you're dealing with different energies, like a lot of times the outcome is going to be different. Like I realize that a lot of my marketing plans are exactly the same.
Oh, 100%.
It's 100% copy and
You just then
paste. I literally
tailor
am
it
like,
to the
hey,
next
like
situation.
this is like what works. And it's crazy too is because I've had managers and people rip my business plans from my Google Drives. I've had multiple people do it and I'm like, good luck executing that one because it
Literally.
is literally, I'm like, I use the same marketing plan for literally everything. But if you if you have to insert people into the spots, if you don't execute it the way it's supposed to be executed, it's
a whole
wrong.
mess,
It's
yeah.
wrong. I'm sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I realized that especially with me and Tori work together on like a lot of different things. And it's crazy is because we deal with like a lot of different people and when we like copy
in
and
our
paste-
different businesses, like literally we work on multiple different things together that then those different things involve different sets of
there's
people
different
for
sets of
each
people and
situation.
it's crazy because we use the same marketing plan for literally everything.
all of it.
And it's the same Google Drive, it's the same files, and it's like funny is because when we have to fill in different energies, we're like this just worked differently because
Yeah.
of the people that we're working with, and it's crazy because like I mean I will say that with this podcast specifically, it'll probably be our most lucrative endeavor
Well, 'cause it's based
because
on our opinions and it's two people that have very similar opinions and both are
Also-
striving to make something that's not just
well, like,
niche to one space, but is overarching and
and
just
I think
popular.
also that we want to show that we're multifaceted, because I know that a lot of times, well, I will say this, especially like with Tori's experience being someone that has been promoting other people's brands, her voice has been dimmed in a space where her voice didn't need to be dimmed. You know, like her voice didn't actually matter. That was really what it was.
Well, what's crazy about
You know?
influencing is it's all about technically your voice, but it's your voice
For other people.
in a branded way, in a brand friendly light, and don't say this and don't post that. And for so long, like, I couldn't post weed on Instagram because I would lose brand deals. I would have brands hit me up like, hey, we want to offer you this contract, but you need to delete this, and this post because it's too far in the cannabis field for us. And like now to come to a place where it's I post weed on my story every day, I have my biggest brand deals are cannabis brands because it's what I do all the time. Like,
And that's like so on brand with like,
it's literally
You,
so
that's
on brand.
you.
I'm literally already talking to like different shroom companies because we medicinal mushrooms are becoming more.
oh, this is why I love hanging out with
Okay.
Tori too. You go to her house and she's like, you want these shrooms? Like, I just got them as a brand deal. And you're just like,
Sure.
I'll take them.
Like, do you
I'm
want to try these with me?
Yeah, all of a sudden we're like in her room, like.
I'm like, do you feel that? I think I'm seeing numbers.
No, like literally no. And it just makes me laugh is because like, I mean, I don't know. I think that especially like after quarantine now, people are like a little bit more open to like the things that they do and the things that they say. And
Well, I feel like people spent a lot more time in their houses with what the fuck they wanted to do and their energy.
Fine.
And also a lot of people got out of the closet of closed-mindedness, essentially, because a lot of shit happened that no one ever thought would happen very quickly. We could talk for fucking ever about manifestation and setting goals. We'll probably...
but we won't. So yeah.
We won't because this is free. But we will probably redefine and talk about it. There's no way we won't talk about it again.
Yeah,
You'll get it in
because-
different ways, in different shapes, and in more niche spaces. So if you're listening to this because we talked about it in a later podcast, the first manifestation episode, welcome. This is us being awkward and new, and the third podcast that we've done together.
Anyways, thank you for listening. I am Caitlin and this is Tori. Plug yourself.
I'm Tori 212 Green, and thank you for watching The Bossed Up Bible.
I'm like, I guess I'll plug myself now. I was like, onlyfans.com/Caitlin, and it's .Caitlin on Instagram. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
I'm a bitch, I'm a boss, I'm a bitch and a boss, I'm a shine like gloss.